I want us to come to the issue of diversification, which has been a major challenge.
Mm.
Successive governments in Nigeria, for example, we talk about diversifying economy,
Mm.
and we still find ourselves at this mono economy star where we're just, once you mention, for example, Nigeria, you all you remember is oil.
Yeah.
We've not been able to diversify. Look at United Arab Emirates. They were
Yes.
able to diversify, to look at the service sector, to plunge the oil money into other sectors,
Sectors.
to tourism, and all that, such that when you think of Dubai today, you hardly think of oil. You think of tourism first.
Yes.
You think of services first, and all those things.
Yeah.
So, for example, I feel very embarrassed most of the time when people ask me, Nigeria is oil country. We're so rich in oil,
Mm.
So why have you have asked me that question?
Yes, I did.
I always feel very embarrassed. Why are we where we are,
Yeah.
in spite of the enormous wealth and potential
Mm.
that we have in Nigeria? And I will answer some of those questions.
I'll be glad.
you know,
Mm.
uh, Over the years, there have been this oil subsidy regime,
Mm.
that has incapacitated the revenue from oil. We make so much money from oil, but we spend so much money paying some group of people, that have hijacked that space, and they're making so much fortune,
Mm.
So at the end of the day, little comes to government. So the whole thing has been shrouded with corruption. People are cashing out. And when you're making that kind of money, you don't want to diversify. The people in charge don't want to diversify. They don't want to put that money elsewhere, and all that. And thank God, our present president came
Yeah.
in and, you know,
Mm.
and decided to remove the fuel subsidy, which is uh, one step in the right direction. It's the Nigerian problem is complex. It's
Mm.
not just about subsidy. It's not just about corruption. There's so many things, that you can't tackle in a day.
Yeah.
But it's a good step in the right direction
Mm.
that is removed, so that funds are freed up to fund um, infrastructures.
Absolutely.
For me, infrastructure is a key.
Yeah.
But the question is, will the fund be used to fund this infrastructure? Will the fund be used for the right things? Will the funds be used just like we borrow funds? We borrow so much from World Bank, we borrow so much to do stuff, but at the end of the day, where are the monies? So that's my fear, that this money that has been freed now, I hope it doesn't get into the wrong hands anymore. So those are the issues. Now, we have not been able to diversify these funds.
Mm.
So that is why we need to be able to look at other nations. What have they done differently? My good case study for that is what is happening in the Middle East. How they have been able to diversify their economy, such that they are known for so many things now.
Yeah.
Why is it so difficult for us in Africa? Of course, we talked about the industrialization and all that. We've not been able to achieve this and that, but the little we have we been able to do something with it?
Yeah. It's
So
very,
those
very
those those
important.
are the key issues.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
what do you think we can do about this issue of diversification?
Uh, Diversification. We have been talking about diversification, diversification, diversification. Uh, it's complex, but
Yeah.
I think the reason why we are not moving forward is because of the undiversity of on the undiversification of our economy.
Mm.
You realize that most African countries are almost producing the same thing,
Yeah.
primary products.
Mm.
We export them with little value addition.
Yeah.
Even Nigeria with your oil, how much are you exporting with value addition? Very, very little. You barely, most of the time export the crude oil.
let
you
me
know.
jump in there.
Yeah.
Uh, Nigeria now has the biggest refinery in the world, Dangote
Oh.
refinery. It started production this January.
Oh.
So now,
Oh, that's welcoming. That's
so
welcoming.
now it's not business as usual. We are no more depending on exporting crude oil. Now we
That's
want
it.
to be exporting the end products,
Definitely.
petroleum,
Yeah.
gas, and all that. So I think that is one of the
This is a step in the
greatest
right
greatest
direction.
news coming
Oh,
out from
yeah, this is a
Nigeria
step
now.
in the right direction. I'm happy to hear that. At least things are
So
going.
our refineries are
Yeah. Yeah.
back on board now. So we
Definitely.
don't have to
This is
import
good. And this is what we
oil.
need,
Mm.
because with that you can sell, your oil for a good price.
Yeah.
More money can be made from it, and then that money could
There's
support
less
other sectors.
pressure on forex.
Yeah.
Now it will also we hope
Yeah.
that also affects our exchange rate because that has always been a problem
Yeah,
too.
because if you look at
Mm.
our economy, what is our contribution to the global trade? It's no less than around 3%, 3 to 4%. That tells you that we are not producing much goods and services. Because we are only producing primary products, and like you said, almost most countries are even producing the same
The same
things.
thing.
Today we cannot sell a lot to, let's say, Senegal, because in the end, when we produce groundnut, they also
The
produce
also
groundnut. In the end we have to sell it out, and then very little of that groundnut is even processed, into oil or whatsoever. This is the problem. This is the problem, and it is good that we try to invest in industrialization. We try to also diversify into other sectors like the service sector. Some countries, today, like let's say even Hong Kong, Chinese Hong Kong,
yeah.
they are doing well in the service sector. Do you
Mm.
understand? So certain countries may not have resources,
Mm.
but they could try to invest on certain areas and then try to make sure the area is developed.
Mm.
Do you understand? Other countries may have oil. Let's say Nigeria will provide oil for Africa,
Mm.
with a value additional oil for, other countries have cocoa and so on, but let them
Yeah.
also, process it. We cannot continue to be producing cocoa, but yet still it is Switzerland
We chocolates.
that
We
chocolate
can
as chocolate. Do you understand? So these are things that we definitely need to do.
mm.
Yeah, and then also it depends on also how we develop our human resource, because
Yeah.
this is key. What areas are we training our people on?
Mm.
Are we training people on other sectors? On emerging sectors of the economy? Because if we want to compete with the world, we need to get these skills. That will
Absolutely.
enable us to
Absolutely.
innovate. Do you understand? To be able to, come up with innovative, technologies. Do you understand? That will
Yeah.
enable us to be able to use technology and industrialization to produce what we want to
Mm.
compete with the world.
Mm.
Yeah, because the world is moving, and then if you want to compete in this day and age, we need to embrace, technology.
In
Yeah.
fact, that's each time I think about the advancement in technology now, I believe that also provides Africa with an opportunity
Yeah.
for industrialization
Absolutely.
because now with the access to technology is obviously expensive,
Mm.
capital intensive. You need foreign capitals to power that, but it's an opportunity if we can take advantage of it, to power our industries and all that. So we don't have to rely on the traditional way of, for example, making clothes
Yeah.
and all that. So many advanced technology we can
Mm.
leverage on now. So let's move a bit to security.
Mm.
We'll be rounding up soon.
Mm.
Uh, Security is a major challenge,
Yeah.
especially in the Sahel.
Mm.
Major challenge. And there's no way you can talk about development where you you have insecurity
Yeah.
in place. Investors are scared to come in. Their investments are they are not sure. There's no guarantee that their investments will be protected. An atmosphere of chaos. Who wants to put their money there? So what do you think can be done to this security issue
Mm.
in Africa?
Yeah. 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 Security. You're right. I know it's not as the situation is not as dangerous as it is portrayed out there. Because
Yeah.
sometimes you go out and people tell you, oh, in Africa, people are fighting each other. This is here, this is,
Mm.
the country is like this and that. When people, some of us who are in the country, we hardly even hear a gunshot, much more any other, conflict. But it's
Yeah.
normal. A conflict is everywhere.
Mm.
But of course, like you said, there are a lot of conflicts also that is also affecting our development,
Mm.
as a continent.
Mm.
You can see the in the region, in the Sahel region, you could see the armed groups, and then
Let me pause you on that.
yeah,
I just remembered something. Uh, my first trip to China in 2017,
yeah,
I met a Syrian lady. I won't mention her name.
okay.
So we got talking, and she said, "Where are you from?" I said, "From Nigeria." She said she's from Syria. I said, "Oh, tell me about Nigeria. I learned they're killing everybody there."
Yeah,
That is Syria that
yeah,
was on the news for war.
yeah,
Uh, Aleppo is under fire. This
yeah,
is under fire, and what they has portrayed to you about Nigeria is in Nigeria in war,
yeah,
and all
yeah,
that. So
yeah,
it's so funny.
yeah.
Media also play a very big role in this.
Exactly,
They
exactly.
try to exaggerate
Yeah,
the situation and all that, but that doesn't take away the fact that we
yeah.
have the
Yeah,
security
we have
issues.
our internal conflicts and security issues,
Yeah,
but largely the continent is peaceful.
yeah,
Largely, to a large extent, is a very peaceful continent.
mm,
Of course, those issues also need to be addressed.
mm,
Yeah, because today you go to some countries, let's say the DRC, the armed groups that are there, especially go to the Goma region, a
mm,
lot of, conflicts.
mm,
Today the Sahel region also the same,
mm,
and then you come to East Africa, even as recent as few weeks ago,
mm,
you could see the situation between Ethiopia and her neighbors,
mm,
because Ethiopia, wants a port access to the sea, is creating, conflict. How
mm,
could we make sure those things are addressed amicably is important.
mm,
I think we just have to go back to the discussion table again,
mm,
and discuss. And then the regional, blocks. I will start. Let's say in ECOWAS,
mm,
in West Africa, that some of the conflicts they cannot be on double standards.
mm.
If one does a wrong thing and it is condemned, if it is done by another, it has to be condemned.
Yeah.
One issue cannot be wrong and then right at the same time.
Mm,
So those double standards, needs to be stopped.
mm,
And then also they need to step up before we wait for France to come and settle our problems or any other so-called power. We need to do it ourselves. We have
mm,
our regional blocks. We have our countries that can individually mobilize themselves, you know,
mm,
and then try to, engage the conflicting parties and make sure peace is restored.
mm,
The situation currently in East Africa, I expect East African community also will step up, or to the AU, also can step up, because this is the umbrella body, for Africa,
yeah.
to make sure that the issue is addressed diplomatically, so that it doesn't result to, conflict, because we cannot afford it. We cannot
Mm,
afford, conflict. Already the continent has experienced a lot, and I think we have to learn lessons from it and try to avoid conflict as much as possible.
yeah.
Yeah, just like, you know in other countries, I could remember in 2016, the Gambia, in the political impasse, the night that our former president announced that he has rejected the results.
Jamais.
Yeah, that night I couldn't sleep. But you could see in the end, ECOWAS has to play a very important role,
Mm,
to come in and make sure the issue was addressed peacefully. People were all, worried.
mm,
There were a lot of uncertainties.
yeah.
We thought the situation could result to any unfortunate situation, but in the end, ECOWAS was has to be credited for their
Mm,
immense role in making sure that their democracy was restored and there was peace and stability. This
mm,
is what we expect wherever conflicts happen in Africa. The
mm,
regional bodies and the African Union, we cannot continue to be waiting for the EU to be coming to solve our internal conflicts, or France or whichever power. Of course, this is a world. The world is a global village.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it does not. But it does not mean that. But when it comes to African problems, the AU and the regional blocs must play the leading role. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
quite agree
Because
with you.
without peace and stability, there cannot be development. Yeah.
Yeah, I 100%
Yeah.
agree with you. Um, Regional efforts, because this is very key.
Yeah.
Because the conflict witnessed in Africa in recent years, they have international affiliations. Uh, the arguments that they are tied to natural resources.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so many. It's multifaceted.
Yeah.
The security issues, they are not a one-way approach. There's a national approach to it where every country will have the responsibility to address the issues of security. And
Yeah.
you've talked about poverty, because when people are hungry, the first thing is, how do we survive?
Yes.
Anyhow, they have to survive.
Mm.
So they take up arms and all that, and that also gives room. Poverty, the poverty pool, also it's a breathing ground for for terrorism,
Yeah.
for banditry
Yeah.
and all that. No one can ask me and you to come and carry guns,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because we have something doing. But someone out there is not sure of what he's going to eat tomorrow or today. No, not sure of accommodation, not sure of anything, not sure of how life is going to be tomorrow.
Yeah.
And you offer him a piecemeal. He's ready to take arms and all that against the state, because they don't care. The state doesn't care for them. So there's a nationalistic approach to this. There's a regional approach to this. We also talk about the integration, regional integration. Talk about, in fact, those are the issues when we're talking about transit within regional blocks.
Yeah.
And the influence of other conflicts on other nations. When there's a conflict in Gambia, don't think Gambia is the only one that's going to suffer for it.
Yeah.
Senegal is going to suffer for it.
Absolutely.
And other neighboring countries. What happened in Libya. We saw the effect down to Nigeria.
Yeah.
So people are armed, people are in possession of arms. They're not going to hand over the arms, to the governments. They use it for survival. They use it, they join different groups and all that. So there's a holistic approach to fighting security. And I always have my reservations about um, foreign troops
Yeah.
on African soil. As much as there are arguments in favor of that, I believe uh, there has to be an African solution to African problems. The best, fine, we have cooperations where military cooperations, security cooperations where we can buy, countries can buy weapons, get military support, trainings, intelligence, and all that. But for countries to begin to station their armies in African borders, I personally I have reservations with that. I believe we need to begin to look at the African solution. So I believe Africa can solve its problem.
Absolutely.
Once
Without that.
we come back to the
Yeah.
leadership issue you talked about, the style of our democracy, the style of our governance should be African style.
Absolutely.
So we are going to end up on the African model for development, because there are different models of development, and what you see out there in the literatures is a report of what has transpired. Is a report of trial and error. Is a report of the ups and downs. Is a report of policy failures and policy successes. It's a report of converging so many ideas,
Mhm.
try and errors, and people evolve to 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 make some progress. Now we go to school, we study how did they make those progress, forgetting that every nation has its uniqueness, has its historical background, has its political situation, has its cultural context. So, what do you think? Do you think Africa should adopt some of these policies that have been thrown out there in the academia, or we need to go back to the drawing board and decide the way forward?
Mm.
In fact, the Agenda 2063, when I look at it, when I read it, fine, it's good to read.
Yeah.
How do we achieve this?
Mm.
You can't apply the Western model. You can't apply the Eastern model, the Asian model to solve African problem.
Mm.
So what do you think we need to begin to do to be able to work towards an African model of development?
Yeah, just like you said, there's nothing wrong with trial and error.
Yeah.
Every society has gone through trials and tribulations.
Mm.
Even the ones we claim to have reached, you know, any development or any level of achievement today, they have gone through a lot of trials and tribulations.
Mm.
Yeah, so there's nothing wrong with Africans also doing the same. We cannot, copy and paste,
Yeah.
and expect, results.
Mm.
And then also we cannot, uh, you know, we cannot do things today and then expect immediate effect.
Yeah.
We need to plant. That is why, just like PLO will say, the in Africa we have two type of leadership. We have the politician and the statesman.
Mm.
The politician only look forward to the next election cycle.
Yeah.
How can he win? How can he or she win the next election?
Yeah.
But the statesman looks towards the future.
Mm.
It's not about the election. It's about how can we build a progressive future for
Mm.
our common people.
Yeah.
And that is what Africa needs to do. We need to try and make sure we understand our realities and accept these are our realities, and then try to develop policies. These policies are good. We can learn from others,
Yeah.
but let's try and domesticate them,
Mm.
to suit our realities. Let's say when it comes to educational policies, what are we training our youths on? For since independence, you could see the curriculum has been what we have been left with by the colonial governments.
Mm.
We are all trained to go and sit in the offices. That's why you see a lot of graduates in the end they cannot get jobs. They
Yeah.
have to sit and remain redundant, which is unfortunate.
Mm.
I could see now recently a lot of governments, including even my government, like the current Minister of Education, is coming up, recently with technical and vocational training in the
Mm.
schools, and is also, advancing to university level, where people up to university level could be trained on certain skills, so that they don't just go back to become job seekers, but
Yeah.
they can be job creators, themselves, which is very important. When it comes to other social policies, it's important. Social protection, redistributive policies. We have seen areas where some countries land has been controlled by few at the expense of the majority. How
Yeah.
can we make sure everybody have access to land so that everybody, can farm, everybody can live a decent life?
Mm.
When it comes to health, also the same. How can we ensure our people are provided with health? Just like Lumumba will say, let the Americans go to the moon, but let us provide food for our people.
Yeah.
Our people, we cannot be struggling with basic services like poverty, basic healthcare,
Mm.
and then we want to prioritize, let's say, building a fancy, independent stadium,
Mm.
football stadium, or or prioritizing, building the most expensive, let's say, state house.
Mm.
There are other things that we should prioritize. So
Yeah.
that is very important. So domesticating policies, I think, is very, very important.
Yeah.
And then also, making sure that we build the human resource is key as far as, building a good future is concerned. Yeah, those things I believe are very, very important. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Mudu. We really had a very good conversation today. Uh, of course, this is not is inexhaustive.
Yeah.
We can go on and on and on. So we have to stop here uh, and continue next time.
Okay.
Thanks, our audience,
Thank you.
for watching. I hope you really enjoyed this conversation. We look forward to your comments, arguments, suggestions as regards what you think about this discussion. And we look forward to bringing you another edition of this discussion next time. Thank you.